Hi, I'm Jilly G. Welcome to my kitchen. Today, I have a lot going on. Today, I'm going to show you 4 different variations on granola bars with not just oats, but some other grains. They're really fast and easy. And, you don't have to make 4 at a time. But they're just small, 8 or 9 inch, square cake pans. Gives you a variety. But I wanted to show you how versatile this recipe really is. And a lot of it's really similar ingredients and kind of the same quantities as well. But granola bars are kind of a make your own, whatever flavors you like. Whether you have dried fruits or nuts or no nuts, you could do seeds. I've got some pumpkin seeds here. You don't have to use peanut butter. One of my recipes is peanut butter, but you could use a sunflower nut butter or whatever kind of nut butter you like. One of my variations will be sorghum. The way that I do mine is I've got sorghum 2 ways. And the first way is I've already cooked sorghum right here, and it's cooled off. It's 1 cup of dried sorghum, and you just follow the package directions for the cooked sorghum. So 1 cup equals almost 2 cups cooked. And then I have a half a cup of dried sorghum right here. And what we're going to do with that is you can pop sorghum very similar to popcorn. And so this will have different textures with the cooked sorghum right there and then our popped sorghum. And then I also have a variation with millet, which is kind of the same as the sorghum. 1 cup of dried millet cooked is about 2 cups or so of cooked millet. And it's already cooked and cooled off. And just in water with maybe a pinch of salt. And then I also have a half a cup of dry millet that we're also going to kind of pop like the sorghum. It doesn't really pop. It kind of puffs. So the first thing I'm going to do is get my sorghum and my millet ready. I'll bring you in closer and show you that. And this bowl is just waiting to be used. But I've got everything else ready. 4 different variations. 2 with oats, 1 with sorghum, 1 with the millet. And then I'll go over the rest of the ingredients as we go along. Of course, honey, and I'm using coconut oil for one of these. But we'll get to all of the specific ingredients. First thing I'm going to do is preheat my oven. Preheat my oven to 325. And I just have a dry saucepan here. And I'm going to turn that on about medium-high heat. As soon as it gets hot, we can puff our millet and then we'll cook our sorghum as well. Once your pan is hot over medium heat, add in your half a cup of dried millet. But you want to swirl your pan just so they don't burn. Or you could use a spatula and toss them around a little bit. And once you hear them start popping, kind of a little crackle, keep them moving. You don't want them to burn. And if you look closely, you can see them popping. And they'll change in color just slightly. They'll go from kind of this yellowish to more of a brownish color. And they smell kind of nutty. Once all of your sorghum is popped, I'm just going to pour it right back into the bowl that it started in. In the same saucepan, again with no oil, over medium heat, add in a half a cup of dried sorghum. And this one we'll need a lid for. Put the lid on, and then we're just going to shake it, just like popcorn. And once you can hear them start popping, just keep your pan moving. And very similar to popcorn, you listen for the sound, and when your popping subsides, it's just about ready. I peek at it every so often, just to see what's happening. And it's okay if all of the little kernels don't pop. Turn your heat off, and then just pour it into the bowl we started in as well. It's like little tiny popcorn. Tastes kind of like popcorn. And even a lot of the ones that didn't pop, they're still good. they're just little crunchy. So set those aside. And even the cooked millet is just a little bit crunchy. Adds a little bit of a nutty flavor and texture to your granola bars. So now that all of our components are ready, but I'm going to use the same saucepan and wash it between my uses and the same bowl. For the first variation that I'm going to show you, I have 1 cup of toasted chopped walnuts. I have 1 cup of chopped dried strawberries. And it looks like chopped bacon, but it is strawberries. 2 cups of oats, 6 tablespoons of butter, about 3/4 of a cup of honey, and I've got 1 teaspoon of molasses in here as well. And then I've got 1 teaspoon of vanilla, and we'll put in about a pinch of salt. So this can go back over here. And over, kind of low heat, I'm gonna put my 6 tablespoons of butter. And I've got that on kind of low heat, but the pan was already hot from the other things we were cooking. All of these will have a little bit of honey, if not mostly honey. Honey is what makes them all kind of stick together. Even if you use a different kind of sugar, for example, I've got coconut sugar and date sugar. You could even use maple syrup, but you need honey to help it all stick together. Of course, you could use sorghum syrup. I didn't get any sorghum syrup, but you could. And that would also be a really sticky component. So 2 cups of rolled oats, gluten-free of course, as all of this will be. 1 cup of toasted chopped walnuts, and my 1 cup of dried chopped strawberries. It doesn't even matter if it's all mixed together, because it's all going to be mixed together when we're pouring on the wet ingredients. Once your butter is all the way melted, I need a hot pad. Move that aside for a minute. And this will be a lot of going back and forth with the stovetop. But once your butter is all the way melted, I'm going to pour in my honey. We don't need to melt the honey and the butter together because we're not trying to dissolve the honey. But we do want to heat it up a little bit to make it a little easier to stir everything together, which the butter will help as well. And then I'm going to just add in probably about 1/8 of a teaspoon of salt and my 1 teaspoon of vanilla. Just stir this all together until the honey and the butter are kind of mixed together and the honey is a little bit more liquidy. And it really doesn't take very much. Once you're happy with that, bring back your bowl and just pour this mixture on and give it a really good stir. Once you've got all of your oats evenly coated, your strawberries and your walnuts are all mixed in, dump in your mixture, and it's not greased, it's just lined with parchment. And just firmly pack in your granola bars. Try to get it as even as possible. And the parchment will be so helpful when we're done baking them and we can just lift it out of the pan. But first batch is done. But you see, it really doesn't take very much to get it all ready. I mean, you're chopping and you're cooking and all of that, but it really comes together quickly. And I'll put them all in the oven at the same time. So now for the next batch. And to be honest with you, I'm not even going to wash my bowl, because a lot of the same things are all going in, and it's my house. And I don't mind if my flavors get mixed together. So back on to low heat with my same saucepan. And my next batch I'm going to do is my sorghum. And this is also 6 tablespoons of butter right here. And I'm just going to put that in my pan. I'm going to steal this 1/4 cup of honey over here. But I also have a 1/2 cup of date sugar. And I'm going to put that in with my butter, because the date sugar we do want to be dissolved a little bit. And then I'll do the same thing again. I'll melt that, and then I'll add in my honey, my vanilla, and my salt. And then for this recipe, again, I've got 1 cup of cooked sorghum. Just follow the package direction. Or 1/2 cup of popped sorghum. about 1 cup of pumpkin seeds and 1 cup, it was about 10 dates that I've chopped really fine. And they're dried, but they're still pretty chewy. If you have really, really dry dates, you can soak them in hot water to bring them back to life a little bit. And the date sugar is a little bit clumpy, but it breaks apart. And date sugar doesn't really dissolve like a regular sugar would. But here is my cooked sorghum. They look like little teeny tiny black-eyed peas. And even though they are cooked, they remain kind of like a firm rice is what the texture is. Pumpkin seeds, my chopped dates, my 1 cup of sticky chopped dates. There we go. And I'm just gonna mix this all together before I add in my popped sorghum. And I'm just breaking up those big chunks of dates. So set this aside, bring over our date sugar. As you can see, it's not really a fluid consistency. It's pretty chunky. And I'm gonna add in my 1/4 cup of honey, 1 teaspoon of vanilla, and again, about 1/8 of a teaspoon of salt. And mix this. That residual heat will help make this a little bit more fluid and melt that honey just a little bit. And you can see already that honey is giving this a smoother texture. Bring back our dryish ingredients and pour in your wet. And I'm gonna mix this all together before I add in my popped sorghum. And once that looks pretty well evenly coated, add in your popped sorghum and give this a good stir. Once that is all mixed together, bring over your prepared pan. Try not to disrupt your parchment paper. And then spread this out and pack it down into an even layer. Once you've got this one all flattened and packed down, set that aside. That one is so fun, it's such pretty colors in there. So now for the millet version, and this one does not have any butter. For my next batch, 1/2 cup of honey, our cooked millet. If you don't like millet or sorghum, you could always use cooked quinoa. And of course, if you don't like the oats. I have 1 cup of coconut flakes, and this is 1/3 cup of coconut oil. Again, over low heat, 1/4 cup of coconut sugar. And we do want the coconut sugar to dissolve a little bit. And while that's dissolving, I've got my 1/2 cup of honey, vanilla, salt. But to my coconut and my millet, I'm gonna add my other millet. I have 1 cup of toasted chopped pecans and about 1 cup of dried blueberries. And these are tiny, but they have the texture of raisins. All in there, and just mix this all together. Once your coconut sugar and coconut oil are heated through, so add in your honey, 1 teaspoon of vanilla, and about 1/8 of a teaspoon of salt again. Mix this until the honey melts and is pourable. Pour in your honey, coconut sugar, and coconut oil. And give this a really good stir. And once all of that is evenly coated, pour it into your prepared pan. And I just push it into the corners first and then start pressing this down. And the reason we're packing it down is to help it stick together. Unless you're making granola. You know, if you're making granola, you just spread it out on a cookie sheet and you want it to be crumbly. And sometimes when you're first trying recipes out, if you notice that your bars are more crumbly than you'd like, add in a little bit of extra honey. You could even do chia seeds or flax seed that kind of have a little bit of a binder in them. And for the very last one, I saved the peanut butter. Peanut butter is a really strong flavor. The rest of these, I don't mind if they kind of taste like each other, but peanut butter is kind of overpowering. So same thing, in our saucepan, over low heat, 6 tablespoons of butter, and I've got 1/3 cup of peanut butter. While my peanut butter and butter are melting, I've got 1/4 cup of honey, vanilla, and salt. And then in this bowl, I've got about 3/4 of a cup of semi-sweet chocolate chips, 2 cups of oats, and about 1 cup of roasted, salted, chopped peanuts. And we'll just mix all of these together. You could chop up your chocolate to be a little bit smaller, or get the mini chocolate chips if you want to. And just give that a good stir. These ones remind me of no-bake cookies. And it really doesn't take much to mix these together at all. Once your peanut butter and butter are all melted together, add in your 1/4 cup of honey, 1 teaspoon vanilla, and just a small pinch of salt because I do have salted peanuts. And just mix this all together until your honey is all mixed in and pourable. And pour in your wet mixture and stir until everything is evenly coated. And the chocolate chips will melt a little bit, and that is just fine. It's kind of what we want them to do. Once that is evenly mixed together, bring over your prepared pan. Press into the corners, and then start pressing it down. All 4 of these are ready to go in the oven, 325 for about a ½ hour. So I've had my granola bars in my oven for about 30 minutes. And I want them to cool off a little bit. I don't know if you saw, but around the edges of some of them, it's kind of bubbling a little bit. But we want them to cool off enough, of course, that they'll stay in their shape and hold a slice. Once your granola bars are cooled off, you can stick them in the fridge and they'll get firmer and hold their shape a little bit better. And even though we've put the parchment in there, they may or may not stick to the pan a little bit. And this one is our sorghum. Sorghum and popped sorghum with the dates and the pumpkin seeds. And don't let anybody tell you that your granola bar looks like birdseed. And I'm just going to cut a little corner here. So that sorghum in here, it really gives it a popcorny, nutty flavor. And it's chewy and kind of crunchy at the same time. But the dates give it really good flavor. It's really good. It kind of reminds me of an old-fashioned popcorn ball. If you ever had those as a kid growing up. But really good. And then we'll try our millet bar. And I'm just going to cut a little square out of this one too. And this one is falling apart, which it does. And it will firm up better in the fridge. But it will still be delicious. So I'm just going to break off a little corner here. And if you ever have a batch that even after refrigeration, it doesn't set up or it doesn't stick together, you can always just crumble it up and sprinkle it on yogurt or just eat it as granola. Put it on ice cream. But this was our coconut millet blueberry. This one is one of my favorites. And this one is the strawberry oat and walnut. You know, I said this one was my favorite. And this one is really good too. But this one, that's the problem. It's not a bad problem to have. Trying to decide which one is your favorite. And now the peanut butter and chocolate chips and peanuts and oats. If you've ever had a no-bake cookie, which could be a video very soon. I used to make no-bake cookies a lot. But this tastes a lot like a no-bake cookie. A lot of the same ingredients, but of course we did put it in the oven. And so if you can picture a no-bake cookie that is a little bit crunchy. I don't know if you could see or not all of my chocolate chips melted. And so here and there, you'll find little chunks of chocolate chips. But really chocolatey, really peanut buttery. If you've never made your own granola bars before, they're so fast and so easy. And you can really put whatever you want. You can do any kind of nut or a grain and any kind of dried fruit. You could do dried pears, dried apples, dried pineapple, whatever kind of fruit that you want and combination. The possibilities are endless. I don't know if anyone noticed or not, but I have a new apron. And this was from my Aunt Kathy. Thank you, Aunt Kathy. I love it. These are the names of some of my nieces and nephews. It's pretty cute. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you haven't already. If you try any of these, let me know what you think. If you have any questions or comments, let me know. And we'll see you on the next one.